Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Greystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Greystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongreystone.com.
Alright, welcome back to the podcast, guys. This is the number one podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. And if you haven't already done it, I know I keep talking about it, but just give the little like button or the little rating button, a little 5 stars or a little tickle, and leave a review for this thing. Because as I say, every single week, it does help it keep in that top 10 at least. I know every weekend when we check this thing, it's about number 9 in the investing charts, about number 10 to 15 in the business charts, and I really want to keep it as far up in the charts as possible. So if you just give it a little rating and review, hopefully you've got value from previous episodes, and if you haven't already done that, I'll be really appreciative if you just left a quick review. So this week, you've probably read the title of this and thought, okay, we know what it's about, but I'm going to be sharing. It's more about self-development. This episode, which of course is all related to growing your wealth. Self-development is about growing the mind, and and being able to live a life on your terms, and kind of designing your life the way you want it to be, and then monetizing that by providing value in areas that you find fulfilling and rewarding, and then being able to ask for that fair exchange. And that is a massive part of wealth creation. And just last week, okay, it's been a long time coming, but we pulled our eldest son, who's 14 years old, out of school, out of the education system. And before I get into it, I really just kind of want to talk about school in general and kind of what everyone else says about it, because over the last, as we enter the information age here, everyone you see on social media, you see people talking about how school really isn't geared up to kind of get kids set up for success. I've seen many posts on how the school system's broken, and it really isn't teaching the kids real modern day. Not giving them the skills for real world modern day environments these days. And on top of that, every single successful person I know dropped out of school. Like I hated school. I personally hated school. I've said it in previous episodes of this. I didn't get on with school at all. And I saw Gary Vee post just this week a post on his Instagram saying, 99.999% of tests at school are, pointless, or school. I've seen him say that school's, terrible, and it's not set up for, it's just waste of time and waste of money. And many other entrepreneurs that I surround myself with all seem to say the same thing, except they all seem to continue to put their kids through school. But I've pulled mine out. Now, I know there's a statistic in America where about 60% of kids drop out of high school. I think in certain parts of America, it's up to 80% of kids drop out of high school. So I started as I thought about doing this episode on why I pulled him out of school, and I'm going to share with you exactly why, and also what I plan to do over the next 2 years for my son, because he's 14 years old. He's just about to start his GCSEs, but he's not going to do those now. And before we do that, I just want to what is school? What is school? Because there seems to be this real hierarchy of subjects that they teach at school, and no matter where you go in the world, it's always the same thing. It's maths, English, science, and then they're taught kind of religion, history, geography, and then art. And I was terrible at maths. I was terrible at English. In fact, my teacher, one teacher that I remember, because I seemed to block everyone out of school, but one teacher that I do remember was a guy called Mr. Shillito, and he said, I used to question everything at school, and I used to say, do we actually have to learn about this, T.S. Eliot or whoever it was at the time? And he would say, listen, if you don't understand this, you're not going to do well out of school. And believe it or not, he was the motivation for me writing my book. When I was writing my book and I was kind of putting 60,000 words on paper over the summer last year, he was one of the driving forces behind it. I kept remembering him saying that, and he was kind of one of the guys that I wanted to prove wrong. But I was terrible at English. I'm not good at English. I wasn't really good at science. I didn't really understand religion. I didn't understand why I needed to learn about religion. I didn't see the benefit in learning history, right? I wanted to learn the future. I was interested in technology. I wanted to learn IT, and I didn't necessarily want to learn too much geography, and I really wasn't interested in that stuff, and I found it very, very difficult to keep my attention span for very long. And on top of that, like, the whole school system is very, very much set up the same as it was, 100 years ago. It is still very, very 200 years ago. It's very much aimed and geared around putting people into a workforce, an industrial workforce, where you kind of clock in, clock out, you do your time, and it's gearing people up for that whole industrialized way of thinking and working. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place at school for everyone, and I know that, if you want to go the traditional route and kind of be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, then there's certain things, certain channels, certain avenues you have to go through. You have to jump through the certain hoops, and you have to get the grades, and you have to do all that stuff. But usually, every accountant or doctor or lawyer that I've met it's not been their kind of soul-guided desire. It hasn't been their passion in life. They're usually guided towards that route by their parents, and they usually end up quite frustrated. In fact, many of the clients that have come to me to kind of buy their way out of that job, to get a bit more freedom, to learn how to invest, learn how to trade, to kind of generate leveraged income, passive income, they're usually frustrated, and they usually have some resentment for their parents because it was the parents that wanted them to be a doctor, lawyer, and accountant. And believe it or not, accountants will learn a lot about money, but they won't learn what you need to know about money. They learn about, balance sheets and the intricacies of accountancy, but they don't understand wealth. And so I get that there's that kind of route, and I know that if you want to be an accountant, doctor, or lawyer, that you have to go through certain channels, but just most of those that I've met were usually guided by their parents. And I know the teachers that work in the schools, because I've worked with many of them. Last year I was asked to be on the Young Enterprise, to lead the Young Enterprise, and I worked with some phenomenal, entrepreneurial minds and kids at that school. And I would hear from the head teacher and the teachers how frustrated that the actual teachers were, because they're guided by kind of a system that moves in 50-year cycles. Just to go from idea to implementation, you're talking about 50-year cycles. It's kind of like the construction industry. If anyone's in the construction industry, my first business was in technology. Technology was moving at 18-month cycles, and the construction industry was moving at 50-year cycles. So there's a massive contrast, and that's what's happening with kids, because kids are very, very different these days, and it's because of the information that they've got access to. And also, kids are very, very different, because school isn't for everyone. It certainly wasn't for me. I was one of those kids who was in the class, and I used to look around and I think, why is everyone getting this and not me? Why don't I get it? Like, why isn't it going in? I didn't feel like I had much common sense, or something was missing, and they were just teaching me stuff, and I would feel like no, that didn't go in. And I'd be looking around and I would be wondering if the other kids in the class actually understood it, and was I stupid, or, are they just pretending that they haven't got it? But it certainly isn't for everyone. School definitely isn't for everyone, and that's because all kids are different. But the education system is very, very set. It's the same thing. And you kind of, in fact, if you've got two kids, I've got two sons, and if you've got two sons or two daughters, or a boy and a girl, and you've got two kids or more, I guarantee you that they are completely different. Completely different. And I've read that from an evolutional standpoint, we're actually bred that way. So if one child grows up to be kind of academic, one will be more caring, and they'll look after the family for survival. So it's fascinating, but I bet you that if you've got two or more kids, that they're completely different. And before, in school, if you was different, we kind of punished the kids. We were kind of like, well, if you're not quite fitting in and you're trying to push a round peg for a square hole kind of thing. But then the kids are going home, and then they're better at technology than the adults. The kids are going home and they're actually better at using technology, the smartphones, the iPads, the PCs, the Macs. They're better at using that stuff than some of the teachers. Now, the thing is, kids have this natural ability to learn. When we're born and we're children, curiosity is abundant. We want to learn. We've got a natural ability to learn. So when school kind of puts that light out or dissolves that desire to learn, that's quite a difficult thing to do, because naturally we want to learn. So what that means is school is doing something wrong. It's doing something wrong. And my son, he used to come back like I did when I was a kid, and he used to say, I didn't really understand it. And I would say, well, what did you learn? And he'd be like, I don't know. I didn't really learn anything. And I said, well, why didn't you learn anything? And he'd say, well, I didn't really understand what they were saying. And I said, did you ask them to explain? And he said, yeah, I didn't really understand it though. And he kind of went about it like as if to say, I didn't really want to hassle the teacher. And I tried to get across to him at the time that it's the teacher's job to help you learn. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you learn. And then I started thinking about it, and I thought, I think the teachers aren't really helping kids learn. And we know that they're not helping kids learn because of the test system, the exam system. It's all based on memory. It's based on what you've remembered. And instead of actually helping kids learn, there's a massive difference between teaching and learning. If you're teaching something, you're just teaching a curriculum. It doesn't mean the kid's learning it. It doesn't mean the child's learning it. And as a good teacher, it's your job to help the kid understand and learn the subject. It's no good just teaching something. It's a bit like dieting, right? People go on diets all the time, and you say, oh, he's on a diet or she's on a diet. Are they losing weight? No. It doesn't mean they're going to lose weight, but the goal is to lose weight. But you're on a diet, you're just going for a process, and that kind of seems to bleed the creativity out of these kids. I find it fascinating that, in fact, I watched a TED talk by Sir Ken Robinson. I highly recommend you go and watch it. But he talks about this whole hierarchy of subjects, and it's when you go into school, it's always maths at the top, and then it's languages. Okay, and then right down the bottom, it's all the arts, and it's right at the bottom, the creativity. It's right down at the bottom, and it's like school is deliberately pulling the creativity and the kind of curiosity and the desire to learn out of kids by making them think that mistakes are bad, or if you're wrong, it's bad. And we're building an education system around not making mistakes. And kids are petrified to make mistakes, and when they do an exam or a test, they fail. And what they're doing is it's almost educating creativity out of the kids. And Ken Robinson said that Picasso, he said, all children are born artists. The problem is remaining an artist when we grow up. And it's true. Kids are very, very creative. They don't care. They're not afraid to put their opinion out there when they're children. But that is kind of hampered down and bled down over the years and beaten down by the teachers. because they're just teaching. They're teaching a standard set of curriculum. And then to top this off, right, we're in an age where these children, not only are they going home and they're better at technology than the teachers and some of the adults, but they're also going home and watching YouTube, and they're watching kids start up their own TV channels. They're seeing an abundance of opportunity. They're seeing these kids start businesses and earn a mass of, just amass a fortune from YouTube. I've seen a kid who just loved trampolining, and now he's got millions of subscribers. All he does is trampoline. Like he's staying fit. He's doing trampolining. Trampoline companies are sending him trampolines to sponsor, and he's getting paid, and he's buying his mum a big house. And it's no wonder. It's no wonder that kids are questioning why they're learning some of the things that they're learning at school. Because if you think about us, if you think about millennials, right, we've got that old way of thinking to compare it to, but kids these days, they don't have that old way to compare it to. So I gave we was talking in the live room this week, and we was talking about, we threw out some kind of thought-provoking questions, and there was no, I didn't really have an opinion on it. I just threw up the questions. But one of the questions was, do you think we need to write anymore? Do we even need to learn how to write? And the way that I kind of proposed the question was, a child is born into the world now, and I've seen children by the age of 3, they're kind of kept quiet by playing an iPad, and they can navigate their way around an iPad by 3 years old. At this point, they haven't written a word. Then by 5 years old, they're using they can play on a phone, they can, use the Apple TV and put on Netflix or whatever, or they can put on YouTube on an iPad or a computer, and they've never been exposed to a pen or a pencil at that point. When they go to school, and the teacher says, right, now we've got to write, the question from these children will be, why do we have to do this? Just the same way that I was asking, why do we have to learn algebra and why do we have to learn about T.S. Eliot? There's going to come a time where, what do we have to write? And I'd be interested in your opinion on that. I'm not saying, I personally love writing because I write notes and I like to read them back, and I'm a very kind of visual person. When I learn something, I like to write my own notes and draw my own diagrams, and it's a good way of taking it in. But then, is that because that's just what I've done? Is that, I've got that old way to compare it to? I'd love your opinion on that. If you could leave some comments, if you're able to leave some comments in here, or send me an email at info@jasongraystone.com. I'd really be intrigued to hear your thoughts on that. And then another guy in the live room said, do we have to read? Because it seems like Audible and, audible.com, you got all these, do we have to actually learn how to read? And it was fascinating, right? But I'm not going to go down that path in this podcast, but it's just, what's going on is kids are exposed to a massive opportunity online, and YouTube and Twitch, and then they go into school, and it's no wonder they're questioning some of the teachings in the school, and it's very, very non-creative, it's not exciting, and they just can't wait to get home. Now, I recently met up with a very large YouTuber, so I spoke to him about, he had over 2.5 million subscribers. He was earning quite a bit of money, and when I say a bit of money, a lot of money per month. And I was talking to him about the business, and he kind of said, yeah, but the one thing that they struggle with is the business side of it. And it's all fair saying, okay, you pull your son out of school and you let him do YouTube and, what have you. But what if they just get 2 months down the line and they decide that they don't want that, and then they try and sway to something else, and then they don't want that, and then they sway to something else. But that's what's missing. So all of these entrepreneurs that I know that say that they're going to take they hate the schooling system but don't take their kids out of school, all that's missing is the business guidance. If they were able to come out of school and focus on what they love and then go and build a business with your support or these entrepreneurs' support, they would probably outperform their parents because they've got the technology at their fingertips. They've got the drive, they've got the time, and with the business support as well, that's when they're going to excel. So it doesn't make sense to say, oh yeah, but they'll just, it's best that they go to school because that's what we've always done and we'll just see how they go. They're actually, if school isn't for them, they're actually wasting their life. Like they're going to spend 2 years doing nothing and getting nowhere when that 2 years could be spent building something or developing in a way that's positive and it's going to be beneficial to them. So we pulled the son out, and the reason we did is because, one, I am all about congruency, okay? Because I can't turn around to say to my son, you have to go to school, son, because you have to go to school to get a good job, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I didn't do that. I don't know anyone that did do that. Every successful entrepreneur that I know didn't go to or dropped out of school or did bad at school. So I don't believe that. Second of all, I don't believe in the school system. I don't believe in the education system. I don't believe that, that it's setting kids up for the modern real world environment. Then I don't really believe in the teacher's approach, because as I said, they're just teaching a curriculum, and also the teachers have got a job for the school, so they're not entrepreneurial, they're not business minded, they've got the same money problems and money worries and lifestyle problems that most of the population have got, if not more, because they're not paid enough. And if they were paid enough, maybe they'd be more creative and kind of go and take on that leadership role to teach a bit better. But the point is, they're not leaders, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not business owners, they haven't got their money game together, so they can't really, teach my son more than what I can teach him. Finally, people come out with the argument about the social thing, it's good for social. True, it's good for social, but if your son isn't getting on at school, his mind's not going to be with it, he's not going to have the right mindset to kind of build good relationships there. He just wants to get home. And if you've got a child who's just miserable when they go to school and then they're happy when they get home, the last thing you want to do is send them in. And also, I can't talk for everyone, but I've lost track of everyone that I went to school with. I'm not friends with one person that I went to school with now. And I've been leveling up ever since I left school. You meet a new circle of influence, new circle of friends, you level up. Anyone that doesn't rise with you and grow with you, flakes away, and you find some a new circle of influence, and you kind of keep growing and growing and growing, and that's what life's about. It's about growing. So for me, it's about congruency mainly, and I pulled my son out of school, and he's extremely happy. But with me as a dad, I'm not going to be taking any crap. I've put together a full 2-year comprehensive program, and I'm going to read you the email that I sent to the school. So this was the actual email that I sent. Dear Mr. Headmaster, I'm writing to inform you that I wish to withdraw my son from school in order to home educate him. I wish for his name to be removed from the admissions register under Regulation 81D of the Education Pupil Registration Regulations 2006. We feel that it will benefit more from a 2-year home learning program focused on isolated higher education. The program will be fully comprehensive self-development program on the most important areas of life, which I consider are health and fitness, wealth and finance, business and vocation, wisdom and knowledge, relationships, social leadership, and spirituality. I then went on to say, he will be mentored by myself and have access to some of the best mentors in the world, because he'll be basically mirroring me when I go to, my self-development seminars, webinars, and all the rest of it. And then I went on to say, we're going to cover things like money and personal finance. We're going to be covering banking and tax. We're going to be covering expenses and lifestyle. We're going to be covering business and entrepreneurship and marketing and sales. We're going to be covering how to plan goals and planning. We're going to be covering how to overcome fear. We're going to be covering how to build a personal brand, how to develop a message and how to speak, how to do public speaking, how to develop better relationships. And on top of that, there'll be a structured, monitored book club tracking a series of books throughout the program that I would like him to read over the 2 years. And on top of that, I'm going to be incentivizing him. So there's certain milestones that he needs to hit, and I'm actually going to be paying him to hit these milestones. So I'm going to be incentivizing him to hit the milestones so he doesn't go off track. And then once it's all done, in 2 years' time, we're going to do a full, value and purpose process to figure out what he actually loves doing, and then we're going to build a business. I'm going to help him build his own business from scratch. These are the most important modern real-world subjects, and they are not taught at your school. We would like this to be as of immediate effect, please, and my son will not be returning after the half term. I then put, I hope you understand that school is not for everyone, and I can't say to him that you need to go to school to get a good job, because we all know that may have been true in the industrial age, but it's absolutely not true now. Congruency is everything to me, therefore I feel more comfortable teaching him a curriculum I can control and that I know he'll benefit from in life. That was the email that I sent to the headmaster, and his reply was, I wish you all the best. The curriculum you've set out below sounds amazing, and we wish Harrison a successful future. And that was it. So over the next 2 years, I'm really excited to be working with my son on this program. We've already set up systems, we've already set a content plan for him, and we're really looking forward to it. And already he's already kind of showing that creativity again. He's already coming out of his shell. He's already excited and motivated, and he's got a spring in his step. And it just made me see exactly what schools, if school isn't for your child, it's not them. It's you have the right to kind of pull your son away from school. So really this podcast is to kind of raise awareness on the importance of being financially independent and growing wealth and being able to support your family, your loved ones. And this is just another aspect of it. I wonder how many parents would love to pull their kids out of school, but they can't because it's almost from the point of view of, well, I've got to go to work, I've got to get on, I can't watch the kids and all that kind of stuff. I wonder how many parents would actually like to pull their kids out of school and be able to provide a program like this. I wonder how many children are going to school and don't like the school, but they can't be homeschooled or home educated because, quite frankly, the parents are just not in a position to do that. And I feel very, very privileged to be in that situation, and that's because of the situation that I've put myself in, that, growing wealth and being able to be financially free, which is, again, why it is so, so important. So I'm going to go on to give you a little strategy in a sec, but just before we do that, just to finish off on that subject, I highly recommend that you go and watch a TED Talk by a guy named Sir Ken Robinson. There's one is my favourite TED Talk ever. It's called Is School Killing Creativity? And he's done another one called How to Escape Education's Death Valley, or something like that. And that's really, really good as well. So go and check that out. Okay, so we was talking about credit cards in the live room this week, and we was talking about the use of credit cards, and I was talking about different banks that I've just recently opened a number of banks with Starling Bank, and I just, it's great how these digital banks are so seamless, so easy to use, and kind of you're able to just set up a bank in minutes. I get a card the next day, and we was talking about it in the live room. We started talking about credit cards, and I wanted to kind of share a little tip with you of credit cards, because people seem to have this bad, stigma towards, they've got a real bad stigma, credit cards, and people have these bad opinion of them. And I've even had people say to me, oh, I bet you buy all the stuff on credit cards, I bet it's and to a degree, some of the things I do buy on a credit card, but it's only because it's smart to buy certain things on credit cards. So I'll explain to you what I mean. So last year, I was able to upgrade my flights to New York from normal, premium economy, if you like, to business class. And I'm going to share a tip with you on how you can kind of upgrade the same way. And many of you have probably heard of this strategy, but before I do share it, first of all, this strategy only really works if you've got discipline when it comes to credit cards. If you're going to go and get a credit card and kind of see it as an opportunity to raise your lifestyle and blow more money, then it's not going to work. What you want to do is, if you do have a credit card, pick an airline you'd like, right? So it's British Airways or Emirates or Virgin, and then go to their website and sign up for the frequent flyer rewards membership. Sometimes you've got to pay a small fee, but sometimes they're free. With Emirates, it's the Skywards membership. That's who I went to the Maldives with. Or if you go to Dubai, you're probably going to go with Emirates. Next thing you want to do is type into Google, where can I generate points with my airline club card? So whatever airline you choose, just put, where can I generate points? And Google will spit out a list of sites. So shops and cinemas and all the other places that you can accumulate reward points for your airline. And I'll give you some tips on how you can accumulate so many. One is gifts. So if you buy gifts for people at Christmas that allow you to accumulate points, you're buying the gift anyway, you might as well gain rewards on that. And if you check where you can spend that's going to accumulate points, go Christmas shopping and put it on the credit card and get those points. Second one's cinema. Things like cinema tickets, you can usually pick up points going to the cinema and they get added to your account. If you can get a credit card that's sponsored by your airline rewards scheme, run as many business and personal expenses through that card as possible. Just run all of the expenses through it and then reimburse from the company or your personal bank account. And the reason you have to be disciplined, obviously, is if you're going to get a credit card and blow the account and just literally see it as an opportunity to blow a load of money, then it's going to outweigh the benefits. But I'll tell you, when you get to go on holiday, you can usually upgrade to business class, which is a massive upgrade in terms of value, comfort, and it just gives you, it's almost like it's not actual currency, but it's like a free lifestyle upgrade. Why not? So a little tip there. I'm going to be talking next week about investing, some passive investments. I'm going to go a bit deeper into where I allocate some of my passive investments. So I'm not going to go too deep into that on this episode, but hope you enjoyed the episode. I kind of just wanted to share with you why I'd pulled my son out of school. Maybe it makes you think. Maybe I'd love you to share this with people. Anyone that's thinking about taking their son out of school or their daughter out of school and thinking, I don't know, is that it? We've always done it this way. We've always been to school. I don't know many people that are actually congruent. I know a lot of people that talk about school being bad and it's not good, and yet they're putting their kids through it. And I'd love to hear from some of you. If you're homeschooling your children, or if you've just kind of got something from this and thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to put a plan together for my child who's not happy. So that's it for this week, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Give us a little rating and review. Have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you next week.
Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. For news on all future events